He didn't come home, Commander. You don't get to decide that his daughter loses all 6 of you. Claire Bennett's voice cut through the trauma bay as Lieutenant Commander Ethan Cole reached for the weathered field pack on the gurney. Behind him stood 4 Navy SEALs in travel-worn uniforms. 5 men had entered Naval Medical Center San Diego. The 6th man's pack had arrived between them, its strap cinched tight, its owner still missing. Ethan's right shoulder sagged beneath a fresh sling, but his uninjured hand remained locked around the pack. Lily Mercer refused military contact, he said. We leave this with family support. We go home. She's 17, Claire replied. And that bag is the last thing she may ever receive from her father. If you hand it to an office, you make her open it alone. Ethan's jaw tightened. His immediate objective was simple: transfer Chief Petty Officer Daniel Mercer's belongings, discharge his wounded team, and prevent one more grieving family from seeing 5 survivors where a father should have been. Claire stood between him and the exit without raising her voice. Move, nurse. A metal tray struck the floor behind them. Petty Officer Noah Briggs had gone rigid beside the treatment cart. His eyes were fixed on the pack's dangling buckle. It tapped softly against the rail, 3 quick clicks, a pause, then another, as an air conditioning vent stirred the strap. Noah's breathing accelerated. His fingers clawed at his collar. A corpsman moved toward him, but Claire lifted one hand. Don't grab him. She crossed into Noah's line of sight and lowered herself until they were level. She did not ask what he saw. She stopped the buckle with 2 fingers, silencing the metallic rhythm, then placed Noah's palm against the cool bed rail. Tell me where your hand is. He gave no answer. Not where you were. Where is your hand now? His lips moved. Steel. Good. Feel the edge. Is it smooth or ridged? Smooth. Claire watched his chest, wading through 2 broken breaths. Cole is on your left. Ramirez is by the door. You came back with them. Look at Cole. Ethan stepped into view without being told twice. Noah found him, and the panic in his face shifted into recognition. Claire guided his breathing without counting aloud, using pressure against the rail and the voices of his teammates to anchor him. Within a minute, his shoulders lowered. His grip opened. The monitor slowed from a racing alarm to a steady pulse. Observable numbers changed before Ethan's eyes. No rank or reputation was required to explain what she had done. Don't separate them tonight, Claire told the attending physician. Not until each man has been screened. The pack triggered him. Isolation may reinforce the episode. The physician checked Noah's vitals, then nodded and amended the discharge plan. Ethan's clean exit vanished with that decision. The team would remain under observation, together, and Daniel's belongings could not yet be transferred. Claire bent to secure the loose strap. When her hand brushed the inner seam, something hard pressed beneath the canvas. She stopped. Not surprise, recognition. From under her scrub collar, she drew a thin cord bearing a small brass key. Ethan saw it fit a concealed zipper in the lining. Why do you have that? His voice had changed. Claire opened the compartment only far enough to remove a compact voice recorder wrapped in gauze. Across the tape, Daniel's handwriting formed 4 words, for Claire. All 5 present. The men behind Ethan went still. Claire held the recorder in both hands, careful as if it contained a pulse. Daniel gave me the key before his last deployment, she said. He made me promise I would not play this for 1 man, or 4. Only when all 5 of you came home. Ethan reached for it. Claire closed her fingers around the recorder and stepped back. His last words belonged to his team. His final promise set different terms. The correction landed harder than defiance. Daniel had expected 5 survivors. He had placed the mechanism for what came next in the hands of the quiet nurse now refusing a commander's order. Ethan looked from the recorder to Noah, then to the amended observation orders. He could seize it, but doing so would break the first clear instruction Daniel had left behind. Claire locked the recorder and key in the medication safe, documenting both under hospital custody. "You'll get 48 hours, Ethan said at last. "Then you play it." "Not unless Lily is ready to hear what her father asked of you." Ethan released the field pack. For the first time since entering the hospital, it no longer belonged to the chain of command. 5 men were staying, one daughter could no longer be bypassed, and Claire Bennett had become the only person who could open the promise Daniel Mercer had carried home without him. What would 48 hours cost them? The medication safe latch clicked shut as Noah Briggs pushed himself upright and asked for the field pack. His voice was steady now, but his eyes remained fixed on the floor. Claire kept both hands away from the bag. This decision could not belong to her again. Ethan studied Noah, then shifted his injured shoulder against the sling. "Tell me why." Noah swallowed. "Mercer made us memorize a contact sequence in case he disappeared. 7 names. 7 ways Lily might answer." Ramirez stopped pacing. One of the other SEALs unlocked Daniel's pack under Ethan's direction and laid its contents across an empty gurney, a folded shirt, a notebook, an unplugged phone, a transit card, a sealed envelope, and a photograph turned face down. Claire watched the men, not the objects. Each reacted to something different. Ramirez looked at the phone. Noah stared at the envelope. Ethan avoided the photograph. Daniel had not left one path to his daughter. He had left 7, because he knew grief could close 6 of them. Ethan opened the notebook. 7 contact methods had been grouped by probability, each marked with Daniel's estimate of how likely Lily was to respond. Calls through military channels ranked lowest. A message from Claire ranked 4th. The only method above 50% was handwritten beneath the photograph, "Ask her about the last piano recital." Ethan turned the picture over. 17-year-old Lily sat at a piano bench beneath bright stage lights. Daniel stood at the edge of the frame, half inside the auditorium doors, still wearing travel clothes. A time stamp showed he had arrived 3 minutes before the performance ended. "He missed most of it," Ethan said. "Not most," Noah answered. "All but the final song." Claire noticed the correction, then the way Ethan's thumb covered Daniel's face. "That is why she refuses you," she said quietly. "Every official call asks her to accept another absence. The recorder asks her to trust the men who brought one home." No one argued. Claire sorted the 7 approaches by what each demanded from Lily: acknowledgement, conversation, verification, or forgiveness. It was not clinical triage. It was consent under grief. She crossed out every route that required Lily to answer immediately or speak to a stranger. 3 remained. "Send the photograph," Claire said. No explanation. No request to call. Tell her the last song is still on Daniel's recorder, and she controls whether anyone hears it. Ethan's gaze hardened. "We do not know that recording is on there." "No," Claire said. "But Daniel tied the recital to the contact sequence, and he required all 5 of you. Whatever he recorded, he expected the 6 people affected by his absence to choose together. Ethan could preserve certainty by refusing, or risk Daniel's last bridge to his daughter on Claire's reading of the evidence. This time, the choice was his. He took out his phone, photographed only the picture's front, and placed Daniel's notebook in Claire's hands. It was the first responsibility he had voluntarily transferred to her. "Write the message. I'll send it from my number." Claire used 9 words: "Your father remembered the last song. You decide when." Ethan sent it, surrendering the team's final untouched advantage: silence. For 6 minutes, the phone remained dark. Then 3 dots appeared and vanished twice. Lily's reply finally arrived. "I will not come to the hospital. Bring the pack to the auditorium tomorrow at 4. All 5 men. Claire too." Ethan read the message aloud. Noah exhaled. Ramirez lowered his head. Claire closed Daniel's notebook, but Ethan did not take it back. Lily had answered the old question, she was willing to hear them. She had also set a condition none of them could control. By tomorrow afternoon, Ethan would have to lead 5 wounded survivors out of the hospital, Claire would have to leave the safe holding Daniel's recorder, and the field pack would enter the one room where his absence had already broken his daughter once. We cannot take 5 injured operators off this floor on a promise. The charge nurse placed the mobility assessments beside Ethan's phone, then pointed to the restrictions. 2 men required wheelchairs, 1 needed supplemental oxygen, Noah had not yet passed a neurological screening, and Ethan could not safely bear weight through his injured shoulder. Lily's condition had turned discharge into a medical problem, but Claire saw a second problem inside it. The auditorium would not resemble the controlled room Daniel had specified. She opened the notebook Ethan had left with her and studied the recital photograph beneath the examination light. Daniel stood near the rear doors. His jacket hung unevenly. One sleeve was darker from rain, yet the field pack resting by his boot was dry. Claire looked at the photograph's time stamp, then at the handwritten line about the final song. The pack was already inside, she said. Ethan moved closer. Daniel carried it everywhere. Not that night. Claire set the photograph beside the notebook. Daniel's wet jacket showed he had entered from outside, but the dry pack had been waiting in the auditorium. More important, its shoulder strap had been looped twice around the leg of an aisle seat. Not dropped. Secured. Noah remembered Daniel arriving at the doors 3 minutes before the performance ended because that was when Noah saw him. The photograph proved the pack had arrived earlier. Who brought it in? Ramirez asked. Claire did not guess. She inspected the field pack without opening another compartment. The strap showed a pale compression line where it had once been tightened around something narrower than the gurney rail. Near the buckle, a strip of faded blue paper remained trapped beneath the webbing. She eased it free with forceps. Gold lettering crossed one torn edge. Row G. Ethan pulled up the auditorium's public seating map on his phone. Row G contained 24 seats. Claire enlarged the recital photograph and followed the angle from Daniel's position to the stage. Only 1 seat aligned with the piano's reflected lid and the rear doors. G. 17. Lily's age. The room went still, but Claire kept her voice level. Daniel did not choose the auditorium because it was where he failed her. He used it as part of the instructions. That conclusion solved the immediate problem. The 5 men did not need to wander through a public building or stand together on stage. They needed one controlled route to one designated seat. Claire mapped the hospital's transport limits against the auditorium layout, placed oxygen and wheelchair positions along the aisle, and built staggered transfers so Noah would never be isolated during a trigger. No medical restriction was ignored. No man had to pretend he was stronger than he was. Ethan called Lily. When she did not answer, he sent the seating plan rather than another request. Her response arrived less than a minute later. G. 17. Do not open the pack before you put it there. Ethan's hand tightened around the phone. The pack had stopped being something they were merely delivering. Its location was a condition Daniel had anticipated. Ethan slid his access card across the table to Claire. Coordinate transport and maintain custody of the pack. If anyone asks to separate either from the team, they come through me. It was not praise. It was authority made visible. Claire accepted the card, then placed Daniel's notebook inside a clear evidence sleeve. For the first time, Ethan helped her seal it instead of asking her to surrender it. Noah watched the buckle without flinching. Ramirez turned the photograph toward the light once more. Beneath the piano bench, almost hidden by Lily's dress, a small black case rested against seat G. 17. It matched the dimensions of Daniel's recorder. Claire looked from the case to the recorder still secured in the hospital safe. Daniel had connected 2 recordings to the same seat, one entrusted to Claire, and one left within Lily's reach years earlier. Tomorrow's meeting was no longer only about hearing a dead man's final message. It would test whether Lily had kept her half of a conversation none of them had known existed. The recorder's black casing caught the examination light as Ethan removed it from the hospital safe. He stopped before setting it beside the photograph. If the case beneath Lily's piano bench held a second recording, opening Daniel's device now could destroy the order he had built around G17. Claire kept both hands away from it. "Send Lily the photograph," she said. "Only the photograph." Ethan did. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. Lily's answer contained no explanation: "Bring his recorder. Keep it separate from the pack." Claire studied Daniel's notebook through the evidence sleeve. 9 short lines occupied the final page, each beginning farther right than the one above it. They had looked like fatigue, the handwriting of an injured man losing control. Now, against the auditorium seating chart, the spacing formed an aisle. The 5th line crossed the imagined center and ended beneath the 7th position. G17 again. Ethan saw it without Claire naming it. He pulled the sealed notebook closer, counting the staggered margins with one finger. Then he opened the team's secure message thread and shared Lily's instruction with all 5 survivors. Information he had once filtered through command now went directly to the men who would carry its weight. Noah replied first. "I stay with the pack." Ramirez followed. "I carry the recorder." The division mattered. Daniel had assigned no single person control of both objects. Ethan looked toward Claire. "You retain custody oversight, but they choose their responsibilities." Claire nodded. Authority had become shared responsibility, not another chain around the evidence. She revised the transport sequence. Noah would ride nearest the field pack, where he could see the buckle without touching it. Ramirez would carry the recorder in a padded evidence pouch. The other 3 survivors would enter between them, keeping the 2 objects apart until G17. Ethan would move last, leaving his uninjured hand free if anyone needed support. Claire would walk beside the group rather than lead it. A second message arrived from Lily: "Do not play his recorder when you arrive." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then why bring it?" Claire turned the recital photograph toward him. Daniel stood at the rear doors, looking past the stage, not at Lily, but toward the black case under the bench. He had arrived late enough to miss most of the recital, yet early enough to confirm that the case was still there. Claire did not explain the pattern. She placed a transparent sheet over the photograph and marked 2 points, Daniel at the doors, Lily at the piano. The sight line passed directly through G17. Ethan lowered himself into the chair opposite her. For several seconds, only the soft pulse of the oxygen monitor moved through the room. Then he called Lily. She answered but said nothing. "You have something he left," Ethan said. A breath trembled over the speaker. "And you have something he couldn't give me." Ethan glanced at the sealed notebook, then at Claire. "Tomorrow, no one opens anything until you say so." The concession placed control with the 17-year-old who had been excluded from her father's final mission and his final years. Lily's reply came quietly. "Not me. The seat decides." The call ended. Claire examined the photograph one last time. G17 was not merely a destination for the pack. It was the fixed point Daniel had used to keep 2 separated sides of his life from altering the exchange before both were present. Ethan removed his team insignia from the transport folder and replaced it with Lily's 3 written conditions. By morning, the 5 survivors would not enter the auditorium as operators delivering evidence. They would enter under the rules Daniel had left with his daughter, and whatever waited beneath the piano bench would determine what could be heard first. Morning light lay in pale bars across the empty auditorium, touching every seat except G17. The aisle lights remained low as Noah carried the unopened field pack toward the center row and Ramirez followed several paces behind with Daniel's recorder sealed against his chest. Claire walked beside Ethan, close enough to steady him if his injuries demanded it, but she did not direct the procession. Lily stood alone at the piano. At 17, she seemed too young to hold 5 Navy SEALs at the edge of a decision, yet none of them crossed the row until she nodded. "The pack goes on the seat," she said. "The recorder stays in the aisle." Noah lowered the pack onto G17. Its worn shoulder strap slipped across the cushion, exposing a faded white stitch near the buckle. Lily's fingers tightened against the piano. Ramirez stopped immediately. Claire saw Ethan begin to turn toward the pack, then restrain himself. Lily left the stage and approached the row carrying the recorder-sized case that had been hidden beneath the piano bench. She placed it on the floor beside Daniel's recorder, but she did not open either one. Instead, she crouched before the field pack and traced the faded stitch without touching it. "My mother repaired this," she said. The words changed the room more completely than any command. Ethan looked from the stitch to Daniel's recital photograph. The pack had not begun as military equipment. Daniel had carried a piece of home into the field, and when he returned, he had placed it between the family he had lost and the team he could not abandon. Lily reached beneath the seat. Her hand found a narrow wooden latch hidden under the front edge. A soft click sounded inside the cushion. G17 released a small brass key onto her palm. No one moved. The seat had never been intended to judge the people standing around it. It had been built to enforce the sequence Daniel could no longer trust himself to complete. Lily used the key on the case from beneath the piano bench. Inside rested a compact cassette recorder, a single tape, and a folded program from her last recital. One sentence had been written across the program in Daniel's hand, "For Lily first, but only when the others bring back what I left with them." Her breath caught. Across the aisle, Ramirez slowly lowered Daniel's recorder to the floor. Claire watched the two machines face each other beneath G17 while the unopened pack remained above them. Separate custody had protected more than evidence. It had prevented Daniel's military account from being heard without the daughter whose life gave that account its cost. Lily inserted the tape but paused before pressing play. Ethan removed his hand from the transport folder. "Your choice," he said. This time, yielding control was not merely obedience to Daniel's conditions. It was an admission that the team had no right to claim the missing years before Lily heard why they had been taken from her. Lily looked at each survivor. Then she pressed play. Static filled the auditorium, followed by Daniel's uneven breathing. "Lily," his recorded voice said, "if they're sitting with you," then Claire understood the aisle. Claire's posture went still. Daniel had known someone might recognize the pattern, but he had not named a rank, an investigator, or a commanding officer. He had named the trauma nurse who preserved choices when injured men could no longer defend them. Ethan turned toward her, not with surprise, but with a decision already forming. On the tape, Daniel continued. "The pack contains the part they survived. Your recorder contains the part one survived for." Lily's eyes closed. The distance between daughter and team shifted from accusation into shared grief, but the pack remained sealed. Daniel's voice softened. "Do not open it until they tell you what they chose to forget." The tape clicked off. Noah took one involuntary step backward. Ramirez stared at the unopened pack as if its weight had changed. Ethan faced his men and left the silence unbroken until each one looked at Lily. The next move no longer belonged to Daniel's recording, Claire's pattern, or Ethan's command. Before the pack could open, 5 survivors would have to give a 17-year-old the truth they had spent years withholding from themselves. The cassette wheels stopped turning, but the faint mechanical hiss remained beneath G17. Ethan reached for the recorder, then placed his palm flat on the aisle carpet instead. "No more edited reports," he said. "No more protecting each other from it." Lily sat in the chair across the aisle, leaving Daniel's field pack untouched between them. Claire remained near the piano. She understood why Daniel had separated the two recordings now. Military accounts could be reduced to sequence, distance, and procedure. A daughter would hear the places where men hid behind those words. Noah lowered himself into the next seat. We said Daniel missed extraction. His voice scraped against the empty room. That was true. Lily did not move. It wasn't the truth we forgot. Noah looked at the faded stitch on the pack. He reached the pickup point before we did. He could have left. Ramirez closed his eyes. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he did not interrupt. This confession belonged to the man giving it, not the officer who once controlled the report. We were separated, Noah continued. Daniel went back for us. One at a time. By the time the last of us reached him, there was only room and time for 5. Lily's fingers curled around the brass key. So you left him? No, Ramirez said, and the word came out too quickly. Ethan turned toward him. For years, command had meant deciding which voice entered the record. Now he gave Ramirez the harder freedom of correcting it. Ramirez moved Daniel's recorder away from his own knee and into the center of the aisle. Daniel made us leave. That's the version we repeated because it made him sound fearless and made us sound obedient. His hand trembled once before he withdrew it. What we chose to forget was that we agreed. The truth landed without spectacle. 5 survivors had not merely been saved by Daniel. In the final minutes they shared with him, they had accepted the value he placed on their lives and spent years pretending that acceptance carried no choice. Lily rose so abruptly that the brass key slipped from her hand. Claire caught neither Lily nor the key. She stepped back, preserving the space Daniel had entrusted her to protect. Lily retrieved the key herself. When she straightened, her eyes were wet but steady. Why? She asked. Ethan answered. Because admitting we chose to live meant admitting he was the one who paid for our choice. And you let me think he chose the team over me. No one defended himself. Ethan removed the transport folder from inside his jacket and set it on the floor, beyond his reach. The gesture surrendered more than paperwork. I signed the final account, he said. I wrote that he became separated while enabling our withdrawal. I made his decision sound tactical because I couldn't write what he actually said. Lily's gaze stayed on him. What did he say? Ethan's breath shortened. A remembered voice seemed to pull his shoulders back into an older posture, but the auditorium held him in the present. He said, "Go home and be worth it." Lily looked toward the recital program beside the recorder. For Lily first. The same man had given the team an order to return to their lives, then built G-17 so they could not return his truth without facing the life from which his sacrifice had taken him. The seat was not a hiding place. It was the last boundary Daniel could still enforce between survival and absolution. Noah began to speak again, but Lily raised one hand. Not one story told 5 ways. Her voice remained quiet. Each of you tells me the choice you made after you got home, the one that helped you pretend his words were only an order. The survivors exchanged glances. The demand removed their final shelter. They could no longer repeat a shared account and disappear inside it. Ethan nodded first. We'll do it. Lily picked up Daniel's recorder and placed it beside the unopened pack on G-17. Then she carried her recorder back to the piano and set it on the bench. The two halves were separated again, but their meaning had changed. Daniel's military truth would not reach his daughter until every survivor attached his own life to it. Claire crossed the aisle at last and closed the auditorium doors, not to imprison them, but to keep the exchange from becoming another performance. 5 men took 5 different seats facing Lily. Ethan remained standing until she pointed to the first chair. Command had passed completely out of his hands. He sat. Lily turned Daniel's recorder toward him and pressed the red button. Tell me how you tried not to be worth it, she said. The recording light came on, and the only path to opening the pack narrowed to 5 individual truths none of them could take back. I spent 12 years making sure nobody could ask me that. Ethan's voice entered Daniel's recorder without the practiced calm of a debrief. The red light held steady between him and Lily. He looked at the transport folder on the floor, then deliberately turned his chair away from it. I built my career around the version I signed. Every promotion made the lie harder to correct. Every team I led gave me another reason to call my silence duty. Lily kept one hand beside the recorder. She neither comforted him nor looked away. Ethan removed the trident from his uniform and set it beside the microphone. I taught younger men that accountability begins where excuses end. Then I used Daniel's sacrifice as my excuse. His fingers released the insignia. For the first time, his official standing and his private testimony could not coexist without consequence. When this recording leaves the room, I lose control of what happens to me. That isn't mine to decide, Lily said. No, Ethan's eyes moved to G17. It never should have been. He stated the date, the names of the 5 survivors, the false language in his report, and the choice he had concealed. When he finished, Lily stopped the recorder. She did not thank him. She turned it toward Noah. Ethan stood, but instead of reclaiming command, he carried his chair to the back wall. Noah sat. His confession was not about extraction. It was about home. Daniel had told him to be worth the life he was given, and Noah had answered by refusing every attachment that might make another loss possible. He had ended an engagement without explanation. He had stopped answering his younger brother's calls. I called it protecting them, he said. I was protecting myself from owing anyone a future. Lily pressed stop. Ramirez took the chair without being summoned. He had chosen the opposite disguise. He built a crowded life, became the man everyone depended on, and never allowed anyone to help him. Service had become punishment. Reliability had become a way to avoid admitting that he still wanted forgiveness. One by one, the remaining survivors crossed the aisle. One had stayed in uniform because retirement felt like walking farther away from Daniel. Another had left service and spent years condemning the others for remaining, turning his guilt into judgment. The last had visited Daniel's empty grave every year, yet had never once spoken Lily's name there. Each man began with explanation. Each ended with choice. No collective wording survived the recorder. By the 5th testimony, evening light had narrowed across the auditorium floor. Lily rewound nothing. She listened only to the silence after the final voice, then carried the recorder to G17. The unopened field pack rested beneath her palm. Its worn canvas compressed slightly, as if it had been waiting for the weight of her decision rather than the authority of any officer. Ethan remained against the wall. The condition has been met, he said. That's not your call anymore, Lily replied. I know. The words were not surrender now. They were consent. Lily looked at Claire. Claire made no move toward the aisle pattern she had recognized, offering presence without taking possession of the choice. Lily inserted the brass key into the small lock beneath G17 and turned it. A metal catch released inside the seat. She lifted the pack onto her lap but did not open it immediately. Instead, she picked up Daniel's recorder and placed it against the 5 new testimonies. Military truth beside personal consequence. What the team had survived beside what survival had cost. Then she drew back the zipper. No hidden weapon. No classified device. 5 sealed envelopes lay across the top, each bearing the name of a survivor. Beneath them was a 6th envelope marked Lily. At the bottom rested Daniel's weathered field notebook. Lily opened her envelope first. A single folded page waited inside. Her breath caught at the first line, but she read silently to the end. The men watched her face, unable to hide inside formation, rank, or shared grief. When she lowered the page, her eyes found Ethan. He knew you might spend the rest of your lives trying to earn what he gave you. Ethan's shoulders tightened. What did he want? Lily placed Daniel's letter beside the recorder. For you to stop earning it. No one spoke. That simple sentence completed the order they had misunderstood for years. Being worth Daniel's sacrifice had never meant lifelong punishment. It meant living honestly enough to accept that the gift could not be repaid. Lily distributed the 5 envelopes but kept each seal intact. "These belong to you," she said. "You decide when to read them. But the recordings leave with me." Ethan nodded. His confession, his career, and Daniel's last unedited truth now rested in the hands of the daughter he had once excluded. Lily closed the pack and held it against her chest. G-17 stood empty for the first time. It was no longer guarding evidence from her. It had forced 5 men to become answerable before giving Daniel back to his child. Ethan picked up his trident, stared at it, and placed it in Lily's open palm. "Keep it until I tell the truth where it can cost me." Lily closed her fingers around it. "No," she said, returning it to him. "Wear it when you do." Ethan accepted the weight. Then he opened the auditorium doors himself, not as the commander leading anyone out, but as the first survivor prepared to carry his own testimony into daylight. Daylight stretched through the open auditorium doors, catching dust above the empty aisle. For several seconds, no one crossed the threshold. Ethan stood aside with one hand resting near the trident on his uniform, leaving the passage open for Lily instead of taking the lead. She approached with Daniel's pack held against her chest and the recorder secured beneath its flap. At the doorway, she stopped. Claire waited several feet behind her, close enough to remain present, far enough to leave the next step untouched. Lily looked from the bright corridor to the 5 men holding Daniel's sealed envelopes. "You can go," she said. "But not together." Ethan understood first. A team could still become a place to hide. He stepped back from the others. Noah turned his envelope over in both hands, then walked to a bench beneath the corridor windows and sat alone. He broke the seal. His eyes moved across Daniel's handwriting until they stopped. The letter trembled once. Noah pulled out his phone and opened the unanswered messages from his younger brother. His thumb hovered over the call button, but he did not press it. Not yet. Instead, he typed 3 words. "I came home." He sent them before fear could turn honesty into another delay. Ramirez chose the opposite wall. Halfway through his letter, he reached automatically for the radio clipped to his belt, ready to make himself useful. His hand stopped. He unclipped it, held it toward another survivor, and waited. The man accepted it without a joke or question. Ramirez sat down. For once, nothing depended on him for the next 5 minutes. Ethan remained by the doors. His envelope stayed sealed. Lily noticed but did not ask why. The old version of their relationship would have demanded proof immediately. The new one allowed responsibility to exist without her supervision. "The recordings go where you decide," Ethan said. "No conditions. No copies retained by the team." He removed a small evidence receipt from the transport folder, signed the release line, and placed it on the floor between them rather than reaching for the recorder. Lily studied the signature. Then she crouched, wrote her own name beneath his, and took the receipt. It was the first document they had completed together without one of them controlling the other's truth. Claire moved only when Lily turned toward her. "I don't want to carry it by myself," Lily said. Claire did not take the pack. She slipped one hand beneath its weight while leaving both straps in Lily's grip. Together, they walked into the corridor. Behind them, Ethan opened his envelope. Daniel's first sentence drew the command from his posture. He sat on the threshold, half inside the auditorium and half in the daylight, and read the rest without shielding his face. When Lily reached the nurse's station, she set the pack carefully on the counter. The charge nurse glanced at the 5 survivors spread along the corridor, then at Claire. "Medical restrictions still stand," she said quietly. "No group discharge. Each man needs an individual evaluation and his own plan." Ethan rose, folding Daniel's letter along its original crease. Before, he would have challenged the delay or organized the men himself. Now he looked toward Noah. "Your decision. Noah put away his phone. I'll stay for mine. Ramirez left the radio in another man's hands. Me too. The others answered separately. 5 choices. No formation. No command. The charge nurse placed 5 clipboards on the counter and stepped away, allowing each man to claim his own. Lily watched them write. Then she loosened her grip on Daniel's pack for the first time since opening G17. Claire felt the shift and lowered her supporting hand, but did not withdraw it entirely. Ethan approached only as far as the distance Lily had chosen. When I correct the report, he said, you won't hear it from somebody else. Lily touched the recorder beneath the canvas flap. I'll decide whether I'm there. Yes. No argument. No appeal to Daniel. Ethan simply accepted the boundary and returned to his clipboard. Lily's shoulders dropped with a slow breath. Across the corridor, Noah's phone lit up. He stared at the incoming call, rose, and walked toward the window before answering. Hey, he said, his voice breaking around the smallest word. Ramirez looked away to give him privacy. Ethan did the same. Lily picked up Daniel's pack again. This time, Claire did not help. Lily carried it herself, not as evidence guarded from her, and not as a burden assigned by 5 survivors, but as something she was free to set down when she chose. At the elevator, she glanced back. Ethan was still completing his evaluation beneath his own name. The trident remained on his chest. Daniel's letter rested beside his hand. The empty doorway of the auditorium stood behind him, unguarded. Lily pressed the call button, then waited beside Claire without clutching the pack tighter. When the elevator arrived, the doors opened onto 2 quiet reflections. Lily stepped inside first. Claire followed only after Lily held the door for her. The elevator doors met with a soft metallic hush, leaving the bright corridor behind. Daniel's pack hung from Lily's hand between her and Claire. When the car descended, its weight pulled the canvas strap across Lily's fingers. Claire saw the skin blanch but kept her hands at her sides. At the next floor, Lily moved toward the opening, then stopped. She lowered the pack onto the elevator floor before the doors could close again. Not abandoning it. Not surrendering it. Simply refusing to let pain make the decision for her. Claire pressed the door open button and waited. Lily flexed her hand until the color returned. Then she lifted one strap and held the other toward Claire. Claire took it. They carried the pack out together, matching their steps without discussing who bore more of its weight. Back upstairs, Ethan finished his medical forms while Noah spoke quietly by the window. No orders gathered the survivors when the call ended. Noah returned on his own and placed his phone beside Daniel's letter, screen facing up. A message appeared from his brother. Come home when you can. Noah closed his eyes for one breath. Then he asked the charge nurse for a separate discharge plan, not the team's address. Ramirez watched him. The radio still rested in another survivor's hands. When it crackled with a routine request, Ramirez did not reach for it. The other man answered, uncertain at first, then steady. Ramirez opened his own letter and kept reading. Ethan was the last to complete his evaluation. He left the line marked Commanding Officer blank. Beneath it, where the form asked who would assume responsibility after discharge, he wrote his own name. Daniel's sealed envelope lay beside his wrist. Ethan folded the evaluation once, handed it to the charge nurse, and waited until she accepted it before turning toward the elevators. The doors opened. Lily and Claire stood inside with Daniel's pack suspended evenly between them. Claire looked to Lily before moving. Lily nodded. Together they stepped into the corridor. Ethan stopped several feet away. He did not reach for the pack or the recorder. Instead, he removed Daniel's letter from his pocket and placed it on the nurse's station where Lily could see it. The seal remained unbroken. I wasn't ready, he said. Lily looked at the envelope, then at him. No anger sharpened her face. No permission softened it. She shifted her half of the pack into one hand and extended the other, not for the letter, but for his evaluation. Ethan gave it to her. Her eyes found the empty command line and the name written beneath it. She returned the page. Then she picked up Daniel's letter and held it out to him. Ethan accepted it without looking away. He broke the seal himself. Lily stayed. Claire released her strap and stepped back, leaving the pack standing between father and team leader, daughter and survivor. Ethan read silently. Halfway down the page, his shoulders lost the rigid line they had carried through every room. His hand tightened once, then opened. Daniel's final recording remained inside the pack, still Lily's to release or keep. She crouched, unfastened the flap, and removed the recorder. Ethan made no move toward it. Lily turned it over in her palm, found the worn play button, and set the device on the counter between them. She did not press it. Instead, she slid it toward Ethan until it crossed the distance he had refused to take for himself. His fingers rested beside it. "With me," Lily said. Ethan looked toward the other survivors. None of them moved to form around him. Noah kept his phone in his own hand. Ramirez remained seated without his radio. Each man held Daniel's words alone. Ethan pulled a chair beside Lily's rather than in front of it. Claire took the seat on Lily's other side only after Lily touched its back. The charge nurse lowered the corridor lights and returned to her paperwork. No one guarded the auditorium doors. No one claimed the pack. Lily placed her hand over the recorder, and Ethan laid one finger on the opposite edge. They pressed the button together. Daniel's breath filled the quiet space before his voice did. This time, Lily did not clutch the canvas bag to keep 6 men from taking her father away. The pack rested open at her feet while Ethan listened beside her, not as a commander receiving evidence, but as one accountable man sharing the weight she had chosen not to carry alone.